Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fensky. Racism. Noun. 1. A belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. 2A, a doctrine or political program based on the assumption of racism and designed to execute its principles. Or B, a political or social system founded on racism. 3, racial prejudice or discrimination. That is the official Merriam-Webster definition of a very important word in the American discourse these days. And if you're anything like Florissant resident Kennedy Mitchum, you may think that's a pretty milquetoast way of describing a really ugly system of belief. But Kennedy Mitchum didn't just think that definition came up short. She actually did something about it. And she's here today to discuss why and what happened next. So, Kennedy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you reached out to Merriam-Webster on May 28th. What first got this on your radar?
Yeah, the current climate, a lot of people are having those big conversations about racism and the ways that racism affects people. I mean, being a black woman, it really affects me in a lot of different ways. So I talk about that a lot on my social media. But a lot of different people kept trying to, basically negate that using that dictionary definition, saying, no, that's not racism. Do you even know what that is? And then boom, copy and paste. They would just send me the definition to try to disprove my real life experience. So after that, that has happened so many times over the years, but in this current climate, it's just too much. I can't take people continually trying to disprove my real life experiences. So I was like, now I know where the root of the problem is, so let me email Merriam-Webster so I can no longer get their definitions as a way to disprove my experiences.
So you got tired of people using this, quoting this at you and trying to say, hey, this is what it is. It felt to you like this was an incomplete or even an inaccurate definition.
Yeah, very much so. I feel like racism isn't just, I feel a lot of people want to just look at racism as it is overtly. I mean, I think that a lot of people nowadays we have social consequences for people who are overtly racism, especially in the age of social media. Mm-hmm. But that still doesn't cover the way that racism works covertly, the way that, systemic oppression is just in every system we see, and like that should really be included in the definition. It's really to recognize the public policies, the institutional practices, and the cultural representation that really reinforce that racial group inequity all over the world. So I really think that people should focus more on that, because we see it again and again, and those consequences of not acknowledging that that's a real life factor. I mean, it causes deaths. I mean, people are dying because of racism, so we can't afford to ignore it any longer.
What kind of reaction did you get when you first reached out to the dictionary people?
From the dictionary people or from people in general?
Oh, from the dictionary. Yeah, when you reached out to Merriam-Webster, what kind of response did you get?
They were really just, they were hard with what they thought. They were just basically saying, like, we understand where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, we focus on the majority of literature and how they use the term racism in their everyday wording and stuff like that. So they were definitely, the first couple replies, they were definitely hard on their stance, and they were saying, like, no matter if you reach out to me, it doesn't matter if you're a person, it doesn't matter if you have a whole petition set up, we're not going to change it based on those experiences. Mm-hmm. So I really had to fight that. I was really disappointed and I was really upset until I kept pushing, because this is something I'm definitely really passionate about.
You had this whole back and forth, and at one point in the back and forth, the editor called you Mr. Mitchum. Did that just get your blood boiling?
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm like, I'm like automatically, I'm a man, because, men are the ones who try to, use their voice. I get it, blah, 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 stereotypically, but at the end of the day, no, I'm a woman. I was like, I corrected them. I'm like, this is a miss. I'm definitely speaking out. I feel like that's a lot. Black women are often left in the background, and black men are trying they take the lead sometimes in terms of they're not really seen. But Black women, especially in this movement, I'm glad that they're being seen and that we're like our additions are being recognized worldwide. I mean, this is going to be something that's definitely different. So,
yeah, and in this case, here, this is a Black woman who got something done on June 4th.
Exactly.
This same editor, after all this back and forth, he wrote back to you and said they're now being they're drafting a revision. They're going to add it to the dictionary soon. They're also planning to revise the entries of other words that are related to racism or have racial connotations. He wrote, "We ask for your patience as we review the large body of evidence for this word. This revision would not have been made without your persistence in contacting us about this problem. I will see to it that the entry for racism is given the attention it sorely needs." Were you surprised that after this back and forth that did get a little heated at points, not only did he change his mind, but he actually credited you for changing it?
Right, yeah, I was definitely super surprised. Like, when I tell you that morning, I was not expecting that response. Like, I definitely rolled my eyes and I was like, oh, okay, what is he going to say next to try to discredit what I'm saying? I was ready to go back and forth again, but I was super shocked. I mean, systems like that are so powerful, they don't necessarily look down and see what minorities believe or think about issues like this. So I'm really glad that he was actually able to just hear my point of views and just go back to his board of editors and say, yeah, this is what this woman is saying, and it makes sense, instead of just being ignorant and trying not to discredit what I'm saying.
So what are some of the changes that you're hoping to see reflected in this changed definition?
Yeah, I hope that they really include a lot more of the systemic elements to racism. Like, with everything going on, it's really important for everyone to understand that, it's not just one racist cop. Like, this is a trend because the whole system is racist. So I hope that they include, like, this is the systemic oppression of certain groups of people. It's a system of disadvantages for certain people, and it was built like this. I feel like racism, it's not new. It's always been a system to keep certain people at the bottom of the barrel. So I hope they include more of those systemic elements and the systemic oppression that people have to face day to day.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand you had initially just posted this news as a short note on your social media after you saw how happy it made your mom that they were going to make this change. But your high school kind of blew you up a little bit on this. That's Narings Hall, the all-girls school. And they shared a post applauding your efforts, and it feels like that just went viral. Were you surprised to see this story take off in the way that it did?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. Like, when I was originally posting it, I just was like, this is really like some type of light in the air of really darkness. Like, these are really dark times. Everyone is going through a lot, especially with people having to see a lot of this trauma play out on their screens all the time through their social media. It's just one story after another. So I was really happy that, it did get a lot of attention, because this is it's a lighthearted, just really a positive story when there's a lot of just negativity around. I mean, but in both of these stories, both the negative stories and this positive, it brought about change. So it really shows, like, using your voice to be heard, whether that's, protesting, reaching out to representatives, or even reaching out to a dictionary, like, you can make a change.
Yeah, and you're making this change. As we mentioned earlier on the show, you're just 22 years old. I mean, that's got to be so cool. I don't know, do you feel like other recent college graduates or even high school kids can take something from this, that their voice can make a difference?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially with, voting and everything coming up. A lot of people try to discredit themselves, and they're just like, it doesn't matter. I'm just one person, but one person can do so much. So I'm really am glad. Like, I'm talking to a couple of groups of youth just to tell them, everyone can do this. Just take your strengths and do what you want to do. if you want to bring about change, you can do that. You can do that alone. You can do that in a group. Like, just keep pushing, because at the end of the day, your voice matters. Even though a lot of these systems, a lot of people might try to, say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. But you do, use that knowledge in order to make an impact. I think that our generation is really doing the young people are definitely doing a good job of that, but there's still a big crowd who just, they don't realize how powerful that their voice can be. So I hope that they take this as oh yeah, well, maybe I am going to actually go to vote, or maybe I am going to, do that thing that I was really discouraged about.
Yeah, I got to say, I give your generation a lot of credit. I mean, you guys are out there on the front lines. I can't say that was necessarily the case when I was growing up. I don't know that we were as political as people your age are. But at the same time, you did just graduate from Drake University, and this is about the worst time ever to graduate. It's got to be so tough. Has this experience given any changed focus or renewed focus to what I'm sure is happening for everybody who graduated in the middle of a pandemic? This is not a good time to be looking for a job.
Oh, yeah. You are absolutely right about that. I feel like I lacked a lot of motivation. Even finishing class, I'm like, I was looking forward to that graduation weekend and having all my family together and stuff like that. But that was all, just thrown out the window because of everything going on. So I was definitely this definitely kind of brought my spirits back up a lot. So that's one thing I am really happy about. And especially the job opportunities, and just kind of it helped push me more into the type of direction that I want to go through.
And what direction is that?
Forward in life. Just to continue, just creating a platform to continue advocating, educating, and changing the narrative, looking for different career opportunities that will help me in that. I feel like before I was just, searching for basically anything because there was no opportunities. Like you said, it's super hard out here. But now I have more of a direct focus on what I'm good at and what because this whole experience, it really made me feel a lot more fulfilled, like I was actually doing something. So I definitely want to keep doing that and just create a platform where I can keep bringing about change like I did before.
Well, Kennedy Mitchum, we wish you the best of luck in that. As we both know, man, this is just, it's hard out there, but I have a feeling that you are going to be just fine. So congratulations on your graduation, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio. That's 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.